5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
I think the vision is similar to what drove the adoption of the internet, similar to what drove the adoption of the international movements of goods, enterprise adoption that paves the way for retail adoption.
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
feel the panic in their voices. Every new technology comes along, the powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say, it's nothing. Ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden they're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen.
Whenever I swap this cord at the retailer, it is immediately sending my XRP to the retailer as US dollar.
This shouldn't even be a partisan issue. This is about growing our economy. This is about leading the next wave of innovation.
This technology is going to be very important. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities.
My name is Matt Rosendin, and I'm joined today with Javi Romero. We are both former Ripple software engineers, and we're now working at Linqto on some new exciting initiatives. We're building private markets on the XRP ledger.
What's going on, family friends? Welcome back to another exciting live stream. Today I have with me none other than Matthew Rosendin, a true innovator and fintech entrepreneur leading the next wave of innovation, just like Brad Garlinghouse said. Matt is a former Ripple developer, now founder behind CapSign and the driving force behind the XRP DAO, which is a community-led DAO for the XRP holders. When Matt isn't revolutionizing the private capital markets, you'll likely find Matt perfecting his golf game. Hopefully it's doing well these days, Matt. Before I pass the mic on over to you, I do want to highlight a couple things about Matt. Matt is particularly around his educational journey, which is nothing short of very impressive. Matt earned his Master's of Engineering from the University of Berkeley. He sharpened his entrepreneurial mindset at Stanford and laid his foundation with a degree in economics from Santa Clara University. So, but what really sets Matthew apart is his kindness. I've had the pleasure of not only getting in the trenches and working right alongside Matt at Linqto, but I've had the opportunity to develop a meaningful friendship along the way. And just want to say Matt is the type of person who lifts others up while he's also on his pursuit of passion. And that 100% underscores that community type element and innovation that surrounds everything that he works on. So Matt, thanks for joining us today, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here, Ray. I'm excited for our discussion here today.
Absolutely. It's gonna be a very interesting conversation. I want to tap on a few things, but I did my best trying to give you a good introduction. I was hoping that you, for the audience who may not be well informed of who you are and your accomplishments, if you can give a brief intro on who Matt Rosendin is.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like you said, I went through school in Silicon Valley where I was born and raised. That eventually led to a job at Ripple. I started my career at a company called Zendesk. They're a public company now in the enterprise software as a service market. And I did a startup after that while I was attending UC Berkeley, and that was with some friends. And we did a startup in crypto. It was called Polyledger. Mm-hmm. That was a portfolio management service. We developed an algorithm that minimized the risk involved in investing in those assets, because at the time it was around 2017 and there was a lot of investor interest, and the volatility in the markets was unseen like any other investment asset class. So we developed this algorithm. It was to optimize based on the investor risk preference. And so that was fun. It didn't really work out the way that we hoped it would, but that did lead into my next role at Ripple, where I joined as a integration engineer. I was helping our customers integrate the Ripple software. And so that was a great experience. I later transitioned into a software engineering role where I was working on internal tools to help scale our operations. And I left to start Trustline around the time of the lawsuit that the SEC brought against Ripple. And this was around 2021. We worked on DeFi and private credit and did a lot of exploration because there was just a lot going on in the space at the time. And we're thinking we want to explore these new developments in the space. And so there was a lot of great things that I think came out of that, a lot of good learnings. We joined Linqto around April 2022. That's when you and I met, Ray. And that was also a great experience in the securities industry, or the private markets rather. And so that, the purpose of joining Linqto was to help build out the trading system so that it could be a two-sided platform rather than just an investment platform. You could then seek liquidity for your investment. And that was a great experience too. Now I'm the founder of CapSign, and this is a combination of all of those experiences.
Let's touch on CapSign, because there's, as you mentioned, it's the obviously the most current thing that you're working on. It's tied to some very interesting. Excuse me. Can you hear me, Matt? Is that better?
Yeah.
There we go. It's tied into various technologies that you're working on. One, it's tied into the DAO. You've also pioneered a new standard for the equity token that I believe is related to CapSign. Do you mind touching base on what is CapSign, its capabilities? Give us the skinny on it.
Yeah, so CapSign has two parts to it. There's the equity management side, and then there's the investment platform side. So when you think of equity management in the Web2 world, think of Carta. That's the current market leader. And in the Web3 world, there's a company actually called Magna, which is more focused on token management, right? And equity management is essentially, how do you manage the stakeholders in your enterprise? So typically companies will issue stock grants, and this gives investors, well, if an investor is investing in your company, they'll receive equity in exchange for their investment. Mm-hmm. So there's that component to it where you have investors who then get on your cap table. And then there's employees. So a lot of companies have an employee stock ownership plan, and you as a company issue equity grants to these employees. And so now the employees are on your cap table, and you just get stakeholders on your cap table. You need to manage those stakeholders with the grants, with the vesting, mm-hmm. and even transfers that may occur. So equity management is kind of that whole piece, the software component of it. It's all been digitized now. It used to be done manually, and software has helped greatly. I think Web3 is the next iteration for that market. And then the other thing that I mentioned is the investment platform. Mm-hmm. And so what's unique about CapSign is that we are working towards an investment platform, which Carta doesn't have per se, right? And so when you can actually facilitate the investment into a company, and you have the equity management component also built into that same platform, it makes it easy for that equity exchange, and because we're doing a tokenization, the tokenization of that equity is then exchanged at the point of an investment, which is happening on a blockchain. So it just goes together very seamlessly, and I think is important as a whole for the whole process to be streamlined and to save companies time and money, and also the investors or stakeholders.
I want to put a pin on a comment that you meant in regards to Carta and come back to them shortly. What I have on screen is a screen grab from your website, CapSign.com. And why I thought this was an important discussion point was simply because this is a bold statement by you. You believe that you've created the new tokenization standard, and I believe that's underpinned by the ERC 7752 equity token standard. Looking into, I think it was referenced on GitHub where I was doing a little homework. It said this protocol assigns a unique security ID to all issuances of equity tokens and is necessary for the ease of understanding cost basis and ease of auditing. Find more details on the OCF handles stock transfers. Do you mind expanding upon what this new standard is, why you feel confident in this bold statement, and what's going on? What's the utility offered by this new protocol?
Yeah, so first, let me just say that this standard was built on top of existing standards as well.
Yes.
So there's ERC 3643, which is a standard which did a lot of the work for compliance related to tokenized equity securities. So it has features like freeze and like all these asset controls, tools for transfer agents, like everything that you need in terms of how the securities industry works is there almost, but there were some missing pieces. And so what this standard, this new ERC 7752 does is it adds the missing ingredients. And so it combines some parts of this other standard called ERC 1400, and it adds other parts that are completely new that have been developed to basically what you mentioned is the security ID component. And the reason why I feel so confident in why this is going to be the industry standard is because CapSign became a member of a industry body called the Open Cap Table Coalition.
Yes.
And so this industry body is behind the Open Cap format. The Open Cap format is the industry accepted way of managing equity in a common data format. And this format is basically a JSON schema, and it defines how the data looks. And so what that means is that it's portable between platforms who use this OpenCap format. So if you look at the OpenCap Table Coalition and you look at the members and you see who's actually developing this thing, it's all the biggest names in the industry.
Do you mind touching on some of those members, Matt, if you're able to?
Yeah, I can. So CapSign is actually a member, but we're also in the company of AngelList, Carta, Wilson Sonsini, Morgan Stanley, NASDAQ Private Markets, Fidelity. The list goes on.
Yeah. Wow. These are some proud global entities. And so to hear that you're in the same arena, kudos to you, sir. I appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with everyone. And hopefully by the end of this conversation, people recognize the developments that you are leading for the greater community. And then also just how awesome of a leader you are and visionary in this ecosystem. Now, on the topic of Carta, I personally had the experience of exercising shares on their platform, and I had to go through the whole 30-day plus exercise or the experience. There's friction friction involved. You know, money was sent. Where were the shares? There's, it was almost like the whole functionality of, based on my personal experiences of working at Linqto and seeing how their platform works, it was something that a significant contrast between what's in the market today and what others are using as well. Do you mind speaking on you briefly touched on the improvements of what you're trying to do in comparison to Carta. Do you mind underscoring, or comparing yourself to competitors? Why should people want to do business with CapSign versus others?
Yeah, so you mentioned some of the difficulties with Carta and how like the banking component is kind of outside of what Carta offers, or it's hard to track where the money is. And that's common across a lot of these fintech platforms. And that's a big issue in my mind. If you could have it all integrated and built together, then it makes the whole experience more seamless. And if you can actually see where the money is on a block explorer, it's just much more simple. And you can also build in whatever compliance tools you need. So, we can get into more things like, there's the stock exercise component. There's also secondary markets, which we're both well aware of how that works. And that has its own issues as well. And the same issues as Carta as well. So one of the other issues I'd like to highlight is just how, these Web 2 platforms are siloed and kind of opaque, as we mentioned. But if they were built on these, common standards, then they could all be more interoperable with each other. And so I think, this next iteration to Web3 is going to create a better user experience for everyone. And, it takes a little bit of time to get there, but so far everything is going really well. And so with CapSign, we're taking things one step at a time. We're not even, officially launched, but we are doing a private beta quite soon. And that'll probably open up to a public beta relatively quickly. And so all of these features have to be built into Web3. Things like vesting is a big one. And then the stock exercise as well. But right now, the focus has been, okay, like, what does that look like from an investment perspective, where you have to send money over? And that works essentially the same way as a stock option exercise. It's just slightly different because, as an investor, you don't have that vesting component. And so it's a little easier to start there. And then the next step is going to be employee stock options. And then you have the vesting component, which is guarded by smart contracts, right? So you can put the equity token into a vesting smart contract and specify what the vesting conditions are, and then it can be scheduled for release. And so the way that things work in the Web3 world are a little bit different than how we've come to, how we're used to it in Web 2. But it has so much more possibility at the same time, because then you can use those tokens in any other smart contract. Like if you wanted to take out some sort of loan against those tokens, it's all of the stuff you see in DeFi, all of that potential now becomes possible.
How far away do you think we are from that DeFi world, the merge with traditional finance?
It's hard to say
completely.
Yeah, I mean it's on the horizon though. It's on the horizon. I think that CapSign could be the one to help usher that in from the perspective of private markets, just because I don't know of any other company taking the same approach as us. And so it could come from a Web 2 company who goes into Web 3, but I really do think like you need to build ground first in Web 3, and then you don't get bogged down by, the current market conditions or anything, because you're always building.
Yeah, let's talk about, what you're building. From my research, you're building on Base. As a former XRP Ripple developer, and with your experience, what inspired you to build on Base specifically rather than going native to the XRPL?
So there's a lot of good reasons for that. And a lot of what it boils down to is the customizable smart contracts that you can build on the Ethereum virtual machine. So smart contracts are really great just because you can build really customized functionality, and you can layer functionality on top of that, and you can leverage all of the existing functionality, all of the existing standards, and the development time cycle is super fast. None of that stuff has to get voted in, like on the XRP ledger, how you have the amendments that have to get voted in, and how that moves very slowly. It can take a year once it gets proposed, or longer. So the development cycle is going to be a lot faster, and that's one of the biggest reasons. But aside from that, there's really good reasons, like features like smart wallets, which is this concept of account abstraction. So it's basically, how normally you have an external wallet, private keys that you self-custody or whatever. Mm-hmm. And with a smart wallet, the wallet is actually a smart contract. And this enables a lot more things, like even sponsored transactions where the gas is paid by some sponsor. That's really nice to have. Things like subscription services. So you can sign up for a service and then it can pull funds from your account every month. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with an external wallet because, with a smart contract, you basically have it where you just say, okay, yeah, I agree to this subscription, and allow this other contract to take the funds from my smart contract wallet. And that can just happen automatically. Whereas it doesn't work that way with external wallets. So we have all of these things that just are making the user experience a lot better. And you also see these improvements coming onto the XRP ledger. But it is moving a bit slightly more quickly than I'd like to see it.
Kind of like our U.S. government. No, but
exactly.
But actually, to that point, it's here we are. A lot of people believe that the U.S. is a laggard in adopting regulations and implementing them. And it's fun. It's similar to the XRPL. It's as if amendments or specific utility that may have been derived from other chains gets brought on to the XRPL at a later fashion, similar to or as a laggard comparative to the U.S. Implementing regulations around this new and emerging asset class. Do you think there's reasons for both, and are those reasons similar? Is there tactical reasons for XRPL, a pristine chain which has experienced no hacks, to roll on these features as they are 100% proven on other chains?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the use case of the XRP ledger, that does make a lot of sense. Stability is key, and having a robust network is very important, especially, for Ripple. We got to talk about how they're leveraging it and how there's a specific use case for cross-border payments. And that is, their bread and butter. I worked at Ripple. I worked on the Ripple payments product and an ODL and all of that. So I think that it is in Ripple's best interest to make sure that it is stable. And I think all of the other validators on the network as well understand this, and they understand that for it to be successful, Ripple is really the biggest driver, and they're just such a massive entity that they are looking to make sure that it is stable and that it also serves the needs of the community. And the community has been vocal about what they want to see on the XRP ledger, these new amendments coming out. But I think the common consensus is that it should be geared for institutional adoption, and it really all does stem downstream from a payments use case. So if you want to see more additional functionality like lending or whatever it might be, yes, I believe there is a proposal for on-chain lending, and that has been discussed for a while, but it you don't want to do too many things at once. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. And like Brad Garlinghouse says, in his peanut butter manifesto, right? You got to stay on focus, and so it's so critically important that it remains so stable.
Yep, 100%. And on the topic of XRP institutional versus retail, you being a former employee, we had experienced the recent settlement, which Ripple's expected to pay the $120 million to the SECs at this week or within the next couple of weeks here. How does this make you feel? You were also just quoted recently in Times Tabloid about Ripple being able to still, obviously sell to institutions. That I think people might be losing maybe that side of the narrative or the capabilities of Ripple, regardless of the news that yes, okay, XRP is no longer a security stock bond. It did receive the qualification as a digital virtual currency by FinCEN, but regardless, what do you think's happening going on with these recent developments around the case? How do you feel? What are your thoughts?
I feel good about it, and I think everyone at Ripple feels good about it. I think most of the community feels quite good about it too. And the reason for that is because it allows Ripple to move ahead finally and put this lawsuit behind them, and with an incredible win, with the clarity that XRP is not a security. So it's basically everything that Ripple wanted. And they get to move forward. They can still use ODL in the United States. They essentially have developed a way to do this. And so it's just, they're going back to business as normal. And the lawsuit was such a damper on business operations. So with all of that left behind, it's going to be, exciting to see what they do next.
100%. 100%. And I feel like the narratives or just things keep picking up speed as of late. Now you mentioned community. I understand, as mentioned in the introduction, I know that you are a compassionate man. Community is at the center of you, or the center of focus. What's going on? What inspired you with the XRP DAO? And do you believe that is going to impact the evolution of CapSign and its growth potential? You mentioned being the fact that you guys have you have a unique position in the market, and with this relationship of the foundation of the XRP DAO, the community led by the XRPL members. What do you think that's going to do for CapSign? And what's the strategy by you even releasing and working on the XRP DAO? Excuse me.
Yeah, so DAOs are quite interesting, and I think it's good for the community to really be educated on what a DAO is, and also we'll get into the purpose of XRP DAO. So I'm very interested in the concept of DAOs, and there's even a Wyoming law where you can create a DAO in the state, and it essentially would have legal jurisdiction. So there are two types of DAOs. There are DAOs that do have legal formation, and then there's the ones that are just like, global associations run on chain. Those are the ones that I think people are have in their head because of the Ethereum, explosion in DAOs around 2021, and like Uniswap DAO and all of that. There's a bunch of pitfalls with them as well. So, the SEC sent Uniswap a Wells notice. This is essentially a letter that says, hey, like, we're just giving you a heads up that there's a pending legal action that we may take against you. And so I've been following this closely. The right way to do a DAO could probably, there's a right way to do it. There's more risky ways to do it. And so XRP DAO is more for the community to decide how we want to do this. I've been taking in the feedback, and I've received a lot of good comments. And I think the best comment I've received so far is, hey, this could be a DAO that is collectively the owners of a community validator or community infrastructure. And I've put it out there as well that, this could also do different things. It could be a for-profit DAO. And I think also people want to see, a entity, like once the entity has some sort of funding, then things get really interesting and people see the potential, whether it can be giving grants to projects in the ecosystem or whatever it might be. That's kind of what we saw in 2021. But I think that a community validator makes a whole lot of sense. That's more of like a nonprofit type structure. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I think that's the way that it's going. And so there's the governance aspect as well, where, you have decisions made collectively on chain, which is, I'd love to talk more about that. I think that's what this is more about than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Rift on the possibilities of the governance utility on the XRPL, please, Matt.
Yeah. So, going back to the structures I mentioned, you can have a nonprofit structure where you have governance and voting, and all of the members of the DAO can make those decisions collectively and cast their vote and have it recorded on chain. And so this is a really great thing for governance, and this can be done, more globally. And it ties into CapSign as well, because I want to be exploring DAOs for the purpose of creating DAO companies that are for profit, that have equity in terms of stock, and that stock can be used for voting. And so it'll work the same way for that sort of corporate governance. And so exploring it from the lens of, nonprofit governance or for-profit governance, both of those are interesting to me because ultimately it leads to the same thing where you have this on-chain system for governance. And that's something that, CapSign is going to explore and implement, especially for, voting in terms of shareholders on chain. That's also never really been done before. And so CapSign wants to be the one that does it.
Absolutely. And with you at the helm, Matt, there's no doubt in my mind that CapSign has the capabilities of doing so, or the resources and expertise. With that being said, on the topic of the XRP DAO, I've been fortunate to have a lot of conversations as of late in regards to DAOs with the implementation of AI and things of that nature. I think really what's the big question right now is how do you navigate these technologies from a regulatory aspect? What are your and also before I lose this train of thought, don't you have a patent pending for your DAO?
Yeah, there's a patent pending for CMX, or the concept behind CMX rather. And it's all right. So let's talk about DAOs again. So this is more of the for-profit side, governance of a corporation. The patent is titled System and Method for a Corporate Wrapped Blockchain. And so the idea is that there's going to be, a blockchain. I think it's going to end up being something like a layer 3 blockchain using USDC. And it's kind of like Bitcoin, how you have, validators who are given those block rewards, and then you have holders who are not, participating in the consensus of the ledger, but they're holding the asset Bitcoin, and they get to participate in the growth of the network and appreciation of that asset. So it's similar to that, except it is a corporate wrapped entity, and the validators are essentially being paid stock dividends instead of a block reward. So it puts it into a regulatory framework that exists and works. And so it has an incentive model, and the corporate entity behind it is given legal jurisdiction and can enter into contractual relationships. And these validators, preferred shareholders, they get the stock dividends. Everyone else, common stockholders, can hold the asset and participate in the growth of the network. It's no different than Bitcoin or any other blockchain, except that it has this new sort of model, and it can become a DAO because you have the governance structure on the chain, and then those votes can be cast and those decisions can be made within the corporate bylaws. The bylaws specify how that governance process works, whether you're a traditional corporation or whether you're this sort of blockchain corporation. And this has never really been done before, to my knowledge, and certainly not in this way. And the validators who are getting these, there is this sort of dilution going on, right? The validators are receiving those rewards, but that is no different than how it works for every other chain today.
There's a question that came in from the audience from Kelly Niles here. Also a Linqto Team Apollo member. Why have a DAO if it's corporate, or what's the purpose of implementing such protocols or the utility functions of blockchain if it's really not any different than the current corporate structure?
Well, it is different because you have this ledger where if you have financial intermediaries connected to it and they're the validators, and they're on this ledger with some form of their business operations, then that streamlines the entire process of clearing and settlement of securities. So that is just not existing today, and it reduced the costs of settling stocks and bonds dramatically. So this is the next iteration of financial markets. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, he said it in your intro video. You don't have to believe me, just believe him. Okay. This is the next iteration, and there is a need for it, at least from that perspective. Total global transformation, right? So, and everyone who's downstream, a user of these financial services, gets to benefit from that, and also can participate in the growth as if you were a holder of Bitcoin. But for this, it's for a stake in this network.
There's another question that came in from the audience, and it's relative because, as you mentioned, the evolution of DLT, these new payment rails built on top of the internet, how this information or data is transferred from one institution to the next. Is this data decentralized versus centralized? As the whole narrative of people even first getting into Bitcoin was this idea that it was a libertarian movement, right? And how and I'm just gonna put up this quote from Mr. Nice Guy, 1111. I love the name. What are your thoughts? Understanding you mentioned USDC, created by Circle, they custody their short-term treasury notes with institutions like BNY Mellon. Ripple uses BNY Mellon as well. I believe other entities that you're familiar were using BNY Mellon for custody solutions. So really, at the top of the food chain, it is the same biggest custodians in the world. Do you think that we are moving towards this decentralized world, despite having the same conglomerates, some of them at the top? What are your thoughts as we move into this new digital age, and with the entities that are referenced potentially at the helm still?
Yeah, I mean, my question to people is like, what is going to happen to stocks and bonds? Do we want those to be a part of this or not? And that's why I'm doing this, is because I think that they're not going to go away. Like, these are important instruments, and DeFi is not going to go away either. They're two separate things, and why can't they like exist together? So that's what I'm kind of building towards. And what I hope people understand is, it's not like really either or. And like, it's not that you want one to exist over the other. They're both different things, and they both have different characteristics, and you kind of want both of them. And you don't want to like limit the menu for people. You don't want to force them all into DeFi or into Bitcoin or whatever. You want people to be able to have investment portfolios, and then you want people to have these decentralized, counterparty-less assets as well. Let's just let them all coexist together.
Yeah, that makes sense, because as you mentioned, it's certain financial institutions are not going to want that data open to the public when it's sensitive data or things of that nature. So to your point, there's going to need to be a happy equilibrium where certain entities leverage public while other entities leverage private networks. I think that's and to your point, that can't all happen just yet on the XRPL, or can it with the implementation of hooks, and which are their smart contracts, or can those functionalities only happen underpinned by EVM functionality? Where I'm getting at is what's the difference between EVM and hooks?
Well, there's not too much of a difference in terms of what the potentials are. I think everything that's done on these Ethereum networks can be done on hooks. The real difference today is that there's far less infrastructure, tooling, standards, things like that on the hooks networks. So there's Zhaohao and Evernode. And so a lot has to be done there. And Ethereum kind of had this thing where there's tons of ecosystem grants. And so if we want to see that sort of development on hooks, we need to have that as well. And Ethereum has been doing this for a while. And there's just it makes it easier for me as a builder to build on top of it, because I don't have to, write things from scratch and hooks and C or whatever. Although there have been developments where I believe you can write it in basically any programming language now. And a lot of that is probably just, education and getting the resources out there. But when it comes to the development process, I personally like to have a frictionless experience as much as possible. Even within Ethereum, like I have spent 3 weeks on one bug, and it's been hard. It takes a lot of to get through some of these things, and so you just want to build as fast as possible. You want to be able to stay in business, and so that's why I think we need more of that within the hooks ecosystem. I think we all know that. I think it's going to develop more, and I'm excited for that. I want to personally explore these ecosystems more. It's just you only have so much time, and I gotta build. So, but if other people are building those tools for me, then that's fantastic.
You mentioned this is very timely. You mentioned Ethereum grants. I believe Ripple came out with an announcement about they're going to be releasing a new wave of grants in the next month or so. Do you think that's the first step in the direction for attracting new talent or interest to the network. And before you answer it, this is timely for me because I'm also working on my own project on the XRPL, and because of that, someone said, "Hey, you should apply for a Ripple grant yourself." And let me see if I can even. I'm working with a gentleman named Boone Bergsma from Blockchain Labs. He's spoken at the XRPL conference a few times, the XRP Las Vegas conference at hosted by Brad Kimes, Digital Perspectives. But what we're doing here is we've built this website. It'll soon be moved to rayfuentes.io. But what we're going to have is a token gated environment, the ability for people to purchase NFTs in that token gated environment or that are tied to various services and such. But because it's going to be tied to the XRPL and those transactions will register on the XRPL, that would qualify it for some potential grant opportunities. So even for me, I'm my wheels are turning over here on how I can leverage these new systems and bake them into even my new endeavors as well. Do you think what are your thoughts on this whole movement of tokenization, tokenizing real world assets? But and for me, it's my own media. What are your thoughts on the evolution of tokenization?
Well, first of all, congrats. That's hugely exciting for you. I love it when people just take that sort of initiative and they want to build and doing it on the XRP ledger. That's really, really exciting. I haven't told more of that.
I haven't told. I mean, we haven't even I'm going to be doing running a beta test with a few of my closest community members. So hey, if you want to join, Matt, I would love to have your support, sir, and maybe even use you as a reference in the just saying, hey, this was. Matt was one of the beta testers. I think that would be pretty dang cool. But regardless, so yes, this is some of the stuff that I think is, I think this is a trend that others will soon start to follow. But what are your thoughts? Is this still relatively early in the movement?
Yeah, it's still quite early, but it's not so early that people can't do exactly what you're doing, and that's great. I mean, all of the things you need to be able to do whatever you want to do on the ledger, whatever NFT or token you want to do. It's never been easier. So, why not? And in terms of your question that you asked before, what is the current state of tokenization? Mm-hmm. It's super early. I mean, at least from my perspective, this is like pre-game almost. Like we're just doing warm-ups and the real game is starting soon. So I'm excited. I'm very into what I'm building. I'm so motivated every single day, and I think you're experiencing this as well. I don't know how far along you are, but it really is exciting to see your visions come to life. And like I said, it's really never been easier. So that's really awesome.
Well, I'm sure that whole no code comment, like you meant, is what's really empowering the opportunities for individuals like me who have no idea what they're doing. No code over here. But hey, Matt, I know that we are getting close to the hour on this call, and I do want to touch base on a few things. We've obviously touched base on your expertise, your experience working at Ripple, Linqto, Polyledger, your first startup, Trustline, which was acquired by Linqto. As you throughout your entrepreneurial journey, as you tacked through these different entities or various stages of your entrepreneurial journey, what was one of the greatest experiences for you, and why? Was it the conversations that you were exposed to? Was it potential travels globally? Was it just the skill set that you've acquired along the way? I mean, what you mentioned actually when I was fortunate enough to brush elbows with you at the Apex Developer Summit hosted by Ripple in Las Vegas. You were really excited when you had a conversation with David Schwartz about whatever was burning on the top of your cranium there. But so for that example, I mean, I believe you were talking about lending at that time, or what was getting you excited. Have you been able to develop on that idea? What was one of those greatest takeaways along your total developer journey?
Yeah, that was certainly cool talking to David, because I had worked on a protocol related to lending, DeFi lending. And I was talking to David about this, and he had been thinking about it, how to do this on the XRP ledger. So this is where I learned about that effort to create a native lending protocol. And so that was exciting to learn about. It's been really great to, again, this was at Apex. I got to have a chat with Monica when she came over kind of towards the end of the conference. And we're just talking about the XRPL community and like the event, and just kind of, because I work there. I mean, I've talked to her at the company before, but never got to have like a real nice, like longer one-on-one conversation. So I don't know, it's nice to have those conversations with the leaders at Ripple, and meeting the people within the community, the speakers at Apex who are all building. And I think being a part of those Apex events is really great. Yeah, look at this. Where was this, Ray?
This was in San Francisco when I had gone up to TechCrunch, and we grabbed lunch in between. And so this was one of my highlights. Meeting you, meeting David Schwartz at Apex. It's just great because the first time I came across you, Matt, was actually on, I believe, even the Bearable Bulls channel when you were working on Trustline, and I was full transparency. I was or am a member of his community, and so I was looking at the courseworks, and I saw the interview, and as anyone, you deep dive and to cross paths with you at Linqto was very cool. It was a great opportunity. And you know what? Actually, this was another great in experience. The quality isn't there, but this was a cool experience too, where we got to shoot the Linqto documentary by Dennis Quaid, and so you see all the executives, and I thought it was pretty dang cool, where we got to basically put on our celebrity hats and do our catwalks wearing the Linqto colors. That was pretty interesting. Any other cool experiences for you, Matt? Because I know that you were traveling all over for Ripple.
Yeah. I mean, those are my favorite, where you get to meet customers, or like when we were at Linqto, there was another Linqto event that was in San Jose. I don't think you were able to make that one, but it's great, and like we've had on-sites, and getting to be with the team, meeting customers. Like that's always been my favorite thing, and building together and like working together. Same thing at Ripple, when you can just get into that team grind set and really be on the same page about stuff and move the needle forward and see it come to life and bring it to customers and get their feedback and just iterate and see things improve and improve. And I've been gone from Ripple for like 3+ years now. And so I was there, how long, like 3.5 years or so. And I saw all of the progress we made then. And just thinking about that doubled is pretty crazy. And I just saw that they have their Swell event lineup with all of the speakers, really impressive speakers. Brad sent a tweet or something saying, this is going to be the best one yet. Wow. So, I mean, and even, when we were at Apex, there was, that after party, and I remember we were chatting and you were chatting with some Linqto customers, and then I got to meet these people, and just like that impromptu stuff is probably the best. And like last time at Apex Vegas, I just went with, and I was working at Linqto. I went with a former buddy of mine. We were on the same team at Ripple. We went to, I think it was the Cosmopolitan, to get like their brunch, and it's like the biggest buffet I've ever seen.
Really?
And yeah, and then we also went to that German
oh yeah, that's right,
place across the street, and like they had live music and everyone was in lederhosen. So like I love that stuff. That's my favorite.
Yeah, good times. And when we did go to Apex, they had the Arizona band play. That was pretty bitchin' as well.
Oh yeah. They always have the stops for music. They had RAC, one of my favorite producers the year before. It's just
Lenny Kravitz at the proper
Lenny
party.
Kravitz, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I used to listen to American Woman getting dropped off to, I don't know, probably like middle school, elementary school in my mom's car, and we all the siblings, since we all relatively the same age, we'd be singing and dancing the whole way down. So to see Lenny Kravitz on stage and have my mom on site there too, because I've been taking her along with me on this journey as well, it was pretty damn cool. But anyways, hey, Matt, I know that we're getting close here. We got 4 minutes left. I'd love to get some closing statements from you, and then also how people can engage, not just with CapSign, but also the XRP DAO, because I believe you have the founders tickets release on September 30th. So, and then you also have a Discord, which I try to access, but maybe the
link is down.
Yeah, the link's down. So I probably strategic because you don't want freaks like me in there, but how can others learn more about what you got going on, engage in your community? Close us out here, sir.
Well, I'm at Matt Rosendin on Twitter. There's at CapSign Inc. and at XRP_DAO. So I will get that new Discord invite link up. I thought I set it to never expire, but Discord. So I'm going to put that back up. Come on in the Discord server. There's more stuff in there. Thanks for having me, Ray. I mean, it's great to catch up with you. And yeah, I want to hear everyone's feedback. If you have anything related to the DAO, if it sounds interesting to you to participate in community governance over a validator, let's try and get it on the DUNL. I want the community to have a say, like a bigger say in the network. And rather than talking into the void and echo chamber of X, let's just, try and consolidate our effort and actually do it through the proper governance channel of the XRP ledger with a node of our own. And so that's kind of the goal. More will be coming on that. I think governance will be on chain on the XRPL EVM sidechain at the start, but we should discuss, that could live on Evernode, that could live on mainnet. We'd probably have to get an amendment passed, or maybe voting can be done through a payment of 0.0001 XRP or something. We could get creative. So I want to hear your thoughts, guys, and how you'd like to see this go. This is a community effort. Your feedback is important.
Love to hear it, Matt. And actually, I'd be doing the community a disservice if I didn't ask you. You got to give one final closeout projection of what the digital asset market looks like in 10 years from now.
10 years from now? I mean,
well, we got a little less hair on our head and more gray in our beard.
Yeah. Well, it's like, paper certificates versus digitized stock certificates. All of that should probably be tokenized and on chain for stocks, for bonds. I think, our crypto assets will benefit from that. And Ripple will be a behemoth in the payment space. And now that they'll be able to operate in the US, I really hope to see them, take it to Swift and DAOs. I think the blockchain corporation will be a thing, and also just regular DAOs, any on-chain governance is what I'm talking about when I refer to DAOs.
Awesome. Well, I'll put up the XRP DAO on the website here, or excuse me, on screen for people to learn more. Actually, it's xrpdao.com. Matt, it has been quite the privilege and honor. I'm going to close down this this live stream with a quick clip. I was hoping you could still stay on, and or actually, you have a hard stop at 10, correct? Or was it 11?
11.
11. Okay. If you don't mind, just hang on. Love to pick your brain, and again, appreciate you for hopping on. I recommend everybody to, as mentioned, give Matt a follow across LinkedIn, Twitter, and also for CapSign and the XRP DAO. I'll make sure that there are links to Matt's resources are copied in the description of this video, so those can access the Discord when it comes up, when the link comes back up. But Matt, it's been quite the honor, and I look forward to the next time that we get together for tacos, and because we're overdue on an IRL, sir. That's what we're way overdue. Let me put this one up for Kelly. IRLs, man. That's what I think the community is missing most of these lately, because as you mentioned, the opportunity to brush elbows with people from the industry, especially like-minded individuals, is very empowering. It's inspiring, and it's typically just a really good time because we all have similar frequencies or wavelengths or visions. But anyways, thank you again, Matt. I'm going to put you off screen here. Let's close it down with a short clip, and thank you all for joining today. Hope you had a great time learning from Matthew Rosendin, the founder of CapSign. Not only is he an intelligent man, like you noticed here, but he's just a great human being, and I'm fortunate to call him a friend. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing you back next week. Love you mucho.
When you're moving something overseas, you're moving from one fiat to another fiat currency. It takes some time, and the banking system over centuries has formed a way to do that, to move from one money to another, or as we say, one ledger system to another ledger system through correspondent banking. And correspondent banking is a reasonably concentrated business. So one idea that's been around, it's widely associated with Ripple, but it's not only associated with Ripple, is this simple chart. What if I move fiat to crypto and crypto to fiat? This is called a bridge currency. I'm calling crypto a currency for this purpose. I know that crypto is not technically a currency, but for this moment, let me just call it, you have two currency exchanges, and thus you have two bid-ask spreads to pay. Just the market makers, you need to pay the bid-ask spreads twice. But this simple diagram is a big part of what Ripple is trying to create, and it has some reasonable adoption. A lot of banks are starting to use it.
Ripple Tech, which is the developing corporation for XRP, they've won every single frivolous lawsuit that the SEC has put through. And it's really quite funny because 2 cases ago, they determined as a ruling by the court that XRP is not a security. So it means it's not a stock and not a bond. And the most recent case, the conclusion was it's not a currency either. It's not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a currency, it's something else. Well, it's a value transfer vehicle. And that means it's probably going to be used at the highest level, country to country, in trade settlement.